Hi, I'm Donna Wolf from naztazia.com.
In this video, I'll show the crochet cast-on for knitting. This method of casting on uses a crochet hook to place the initial loops onto the knitting needle. It's great for beginners of knitting, as well as experienced knitters who need a more solid cast-on edge. For my sample, I'm using super bulky weight yarn to make the stitches easier to see in this video. Feel free to use any other size yarn for this method. To begin, start with the slip knot. And there are several ways of making a regular slip knot. Then place the slip knot on the crochet hook and adjust the loop as needed. Place one knitting needle next to the slip knot. I'll be holding both the yarn from the yarn skein as well as the tail end for this first loop. And I'll be holding the knitting needle too, all at the same time. Reach over the top of the knitting needle with the crochet hook and make a yarn over to the yarn from the yarn skein. Next, pull the hook through the loop. And there's the very first cast-on loop. I'm moving that loop down a bit so that I can work on the next loop. This next loop and all others afterwards are made the same way. Take the yarn from the yarn skein and wrap it behind the knitting needle. Next, place the crochet hook over the knitting needle and make a yarn over. Finally, pull the hook through the loop to create the next cast-on stitch. Now, there are two cast-on stitches on the knitting needle. So for all subsequent cast-on stitches using this crochet method, the yarn will be wrapped behind the knitting needle, make a yarn over, and pull it through the loop on the hook to create the next cast-on stitch. And I'll do this again. Wrap the yarn behind the knitting needle, then reach over the top of the needle with the crochet hook, yarn over, and draw through the loop. Continue with this process to create more cast-on loops on the knitting needle. At the very end, when the cast-on loops have been made, there's one more loop that will go on the knitting needle. So when counting the cast-on stitches using the crochet method, make one less than the pattern calls for, and then use this last loop to count as the very last cast-on stitch. The loops are nice and even, plus they aren't too tight nor too loose for the next row of knitting. At this point, follow the pattern for the stitches. The stitches might be knit stitches or purl stitches or some other variation for this row. Whatever the pattern calls for, the edging really shows up nicely. And that's how I make a crochet cast-on for knitting.